Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stacey and I'm going to be sharing the books that I picked up from the library. So if you're interested in that, please keep watching. I am very excited about this library haul. As you all know, I am really focused on my housewife and stay-at-home mom skills and whatnot, and homemaking skills. And so to that end, two of the books that I got are cookbooks. One of the books is, I'll do this one first, is small batch baking, small batch baking. And it talks about how I can make small batch desserts, because I don't know if you're familiar with cookbooks, but cookbooks tend to make the recipe always calls for 20 to 40 cookies or a cake that serves 12 to 24 people, and it's I don't want that, but I do want sweets. And I'm really hoping that I can learn how to do small batches from here and how to convert recipes and things like that. So I'm very excited about this book. And then the other book that I got is Black Girl Baking, and I've already actually flipped through this book, and over on my Instagram I tried one of the recipes that are in here, and I'm very excited to see how it turns out. But I'm very excited about this book. This book surprised me in the sense that I didn't realize that there's a vegetarian, vegan element to her baking. I just picked it up because I really enjoyed the cover, and when I was flipping through, I loved all the pictures that were on the screen. But she has a lot of how to replace eggs, egg replacement, dairy replacements, which I don't need to replace dairy in baking, but I do need to replace eggs, because you guys know my body does not like poultry whatsoever. So I'm very excited about that. So I got these two books to help me in my homemakingness. Then I got this book. Oh. Yeah. Do you wanna? Okay. The next book that I got is Colossal. I just picked this up. I was drawn to it. I like the cover. I went to the fantasy section and I was looking for another fantasy book. I'm currently reading Real by Kennedy Ryan, but I like to savor my Kennedy Ryan books. And so I wanted to pick up another book that I could gnaw on day to day. And I was drawn to it. When I picked it up, I read the back, and it kind of talked about how this is a metaphysical quantum physics fantasy love story. And then the reviews for this were really quite spectacular as well, like the reviews that were on the first page. I'm hoping that this would be a really good book to gnaw on for the month. The other book that I was drawn to was this book. I just saw the cover. I was passing through the memoir sections. I'm not really a memoir person. I tend to like memoirs that are written by business people, because it fascinates me how they came into the position that they had at a company, or how they built a company. And so I really like this cover, which is interesting that I'm kind of being drawn to this sort of abstract-y type art. But the title is When We Are Seen, and then the subtitle is How to Come Into Your Power and Empower Others Along the Way. I really just like both of those titles. And then when I read the subline here, I realized that this book is written by the Chief Human Resources Officer at Apple, or the former Chief Human Resources Officer at Apple. And many of you all know I have my master's in human resources, and I adore human resources. It's the human side of business, and I do like to keep that sharp, right? I like to sharpen the saw on that, so it's not information that just went in my head when I was studying and fell out of my head because I got my degree. I'm hoping that this will be fascinating. I also love Apple as a company, and so it'll be really interesting to see how the Chief Human Resource Officer managed the people who work for Apple and what that experience was like. Then I got this book. It's called Writing Begins with Breath, and this is because I am still writing. I know you guys have been hearing me talk about these books that I've been writing for 1,000 years. I have been writing them for 1,000 years. I do want to publish them, but my confidence in my writing isn't there yet, and I'm wanting to build on it. So I want to read through this book to give my writing one more thoughtful edit before it goes to publishing, because I am self-publishing. And I think that that's another thing. I think if I was publishing through a traditional publisher, I would have 12 to 15 different eyes on my manuscript before it went to the public. And as it stands right now, I'm probably going to have maybe 3 to 4 eyes on it before it goes to public. Like my eyes, my editor eyes, Sean Keese is reading it, and maybe a couple of beta readers will read it. That's not a lot of eyes before it goes to print, and I just want to make sure that it's really well done. And this was a book that a girl who has written some books on TikTok recommended, and so just want to flip through this to hone my craft as a writer. Then the last 2 books, I'll talk about this one. So then I also got this book. This is called Rebuild: 5 Proven Steps to Move from Diagnosis to Recovery and Be Healthier Than Before. This book I got because in pregnancy, I was diagnosed with fibroids, and apparently I have tons and tons and tons of fibroids. I know I have 3 large ones and then other smaller ones, and I don't like the idea of disease being in my body, especially any disease that starts with phi as the prefix, because so much of the phi prefixed illnesses or diseases are illnesses and diseases that have an unknown origin, and I don't like the idea of an unknown origin. I do not like that this thing is prevalent, but we have no idea what caused it. We kind of don't really know how to treat it, and so I want to do my best to do as much healing as possible, and I'm hoping that this book will give me some insight into doing that. Another thing, and I haven't talked about this publicly yet, but I was also I wouldn't necessarily say diagnosed, but my doctors have been monitoring me for high blood pressure since giving birth. And I believe the high blood pressure is a symptom or a result of my pregnancy experience, because it wasn't something that I had prior to that. And it's something that I'm managing now through diet. You will have heard me say that I'm going into being salt-free because I don't want to have high blood pressure. I'm planning to live for 1,000 more years. And in order to do that and be well and vibrant and healthy and happy, like, I need to get this under control. And so I want to read this so that way I can take a holistic approach to healing both the fibroids, the high blood pressure, and maybe any other disease that might be in my body. So that's what this book is about. And then last but certainly not least, I have the book Happy Now: Getting Happiness Right in a World That Got It Wrong. And I'm really excited about this book. I stumbled upon Stephanie Harrison on TikTok. Like, her TikToks kept coming up and they were all about happiness. And you guys know that's my passion. That's what I study. That is the work that I do. And her work kept coming up, and I like to, I like to pay attention to my contemporaries. I understand, like, a lot of people, they get, I don't know, intimidated, weird about other people doing stuff in their area of interest. I'm not like that. I like to stay abreast to what my contemporaries are doing, what they're saying. You know, we all have different approaches to the same topic. And one of the things that's really fascinating about Stephanie's approach is she includes artwork in her expression and explanation for how to do hobbies. And her artwork is, I don't know what this type of artwork is called, but it's a lot of imagery that's like this to explain and express different philosophies that she has around happiness. And so I'm really excited to read this book just to see what her perspective is. My best guess, just as a person who understands books and the way that this feels in hand, my best guess is that she wrote her dissertation on this topic and then converted it into a book. Very similarly to how the author Stephen Covey, his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that was his dissertation that he turned into a book. That is the reason why that book is so content rich, is because it is from a dissertation. My best guess is this is going to be from her dissertation as well. If it's not, I would be very, very surprised. And if so, that'll be very exciting, because then I know that a lot of her theories in here will be research backed as well. So I am very excited. These are the books that I plan to read over the month of January. I have 3 other books that I also pulled on Kindle, which I know that seems like a lot of books, and it is a lot of books. But postpartum, my brain has finally come back online, and I want to read and consume all of the things. So I'm going to do my best to read as much as I can. If you'll notice, there's only really one fiction book that's in here that I'm sort of reading for entertainment. By Kennedy Ryan. I'll probably take like the next 6 to 8 weeks to chew on it, because I want to savor that book. Colossal, I'm going to try to read it this month. But the rest of these books are more like resource books. This I'll probably do, I've checked it out for January, but I'll probably check it out for February as well, just to be able to read it slower. But the cookbooks and some of the other books are more like reference materials where I'm going into the reading to try to extract something. So it's a different type of reading than the reading where you just like sit down to enjoy. So if you can imagine, like when you're in college and you have 5 classes and all of your professors are like, you need to read this many chapters of each of these things every other day. It's like, that's kind of how I still read, because people always ask me like, how do you read so much? And I think it's because I still read like a college student. If a professor had assigned each of these individual books for me to complete, I would just read it. I wouldn't take any thought of like, oh my gosh, this is a whole bunch of books. I would just do the reading. And so I think even though I'm not in school anymore, I still read like that. And that's how I'm able to consume, especially if I'm consuming something as a reference, as opposed to consuming something to just enjoy. So those are the books that I got from the library. I'm very excited. I would love to know what you all are reading this month. So let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.